Modifier problems. And what I'm talking about here are misplaced modifiers and dangling modifiers. First of all, let's review real quick what a modifier is. Modifiers are adjectives and adverbs. Or phrases that act like adjectives or adverbs. Okay, so those are modifiers, so they modify nouns or pronouns, or they modify verbs. Oops. Sometimes they modify adjectives or other adverbs. All right. So these are modifiers, adjectives and adverbs, essentially. Okay, so when they're misplaced, that means they're modifying the wrong word because they're not next to the word that they actually modify, so it becomes confusing, ambiguous, unclear. So let me give you an example. I've got something for sale. All right, I've got a mixing bowl. Mixing bowl for sale, right? Maybe I need to say something about my mixing bowl. So I'm not going to use a complete sentence because this is an ad. Just, you're limited to the certain amount of words and characters you can use in the ad. Otherwise, it costs more money if you use too many characters. So I'm going to keep it kind of limited. But I do want to add some description to this mixing bowl. It is designed to please a cook. Let's say a baker. Okay, maybe that's not enough though, so I'm going to add with a round bottom. All right, a little more information about the mixing bowl, right? And purpose for efficient beating. All right. So I finish my ad, I put it in the newspaper, I pay my $10 for however many characters I have here, and I'm hoping to get some hits and sell my mixing bowl. I forgot to put the amount. Let's say mixing bowl, something realistic. Let's give it a good price, $5. Okay. All right, and then somebody comes and reads it, and they go, oh, I need a mixing bowl designed to please a baker with a round bottom for efficient beating. And they go, that's kind of insulting. So, yeah, maybe they can figure out what it means, but sometimes it can't be figured out. You know that we're not talking about a mixing bowl that is designed to please a baker with a round bottom for efficient beating, right? It's a mixing bowl with a round bottom for efficient beating designed to please a baker. So it should be corrected edited so that it actually says what it's supposed to say. Okay, so that revision makes more sense. Sometimes if you have them, your misplaced modifiers can be embarrassing, like this first one. We don't want to embarrass ourselves when we do this. We would rather say what we mean, unless we're just joking around. Of course, like I was just a moment ago. All right, so that is a misplaced modifier, and I'll tell you, let's be more specific why. Because with a round bottom is a prepositional phrase. It acts as a modifier. It acts as an adjective to describe the mixing bowl, not to describe the baker. So it needs to go next to mixing bowl, not next to baker. For efficient beating, well, that is another modifier, and it's modifying this adjective phrase with a round bottom. So it's saying what the purpose of this round bottom is. So it's an adverb phrase, a prepositional phrase that acts like an adverb, and so it is already next to with the round bottom. So that is this whole thing right here, from with through the end of this, needs to be just moved over here. So like I did, obviously. Okay. So that is a misplaced modifier, and so we want to make sure that what we're saying is what we mean to say. How about another example, just for fun here? We'll sell something else. All right, what do we want to sell? We're going to sell an antique desk. All right. Who do we want to sell to? It's suitable for a lady. Maybe we should add something about this desk, right? It has thick legs and large drawers. All right. Let's say this is $25. Good price, right? Okay, so I send this off to the paper, and the ladies that might be looking at it think that maybe this is an insult. So you can sense what's wrong here, I'm sure, right? We have an antique desk with thick legs and large drawers. So this needs to go next to desk, not next to lady. So we revise, edit, whatever. And we sell it for $25. All right. Obviously, we don't want to insult people when we write, so or just confuse them in general. That's really what mostly happens, is it's confusing. So that's another example of misplaced modifiers. How about a dangling modifier? Well, here's an example. We've got strolling into the office. All right. The alarm blared. All right. So the problem with this is we have a dangling modifier. Strolling into the office is an introductory verbal phrase. It's a participial phrase. It should be modifying whatever comes right after it, because it's an introductory phrase, so we're going to offset it with a comma before the main clause. Clause, of course, is something with a subject and a verb. Main clause is an independent clause that can stand alone. The alarm blared is that independent clause. So introducing that clause, we have this phrase, this verbal phrase. Not a verb phrase, but a verbal phrase. So it acts like an adjective. It's supposed to be modifying the subject that follows. So the alarm, according to this sentence, the alarm strolled into the office, or was strolling into the office. So obviously that's not true. So we have a dangling modifier because it's dangling here with nothing to hold on to. The subject that it's supposed to be modifying is just not there. So what we could do is edit it or revise it to say what it's supposed to say. Let's give this subject a name, Birdie. Okay, so now strolling into the office modifies who was doing that. So it's describing Birdie, what she was doing. All right, so now it's not dangling anymore. Now it makes sense. It says what it's supposed to say. Or you could change it. It doesn't have to be just like that. You could take away the introductory phrase, and we can start with a introductory subordinate clause if we want. As Birdie strolled into the office. I feel like I said subordinate phrase, but it's a subordinate clause. So a subordinate clause, if you start a sentence with it, it introduces the main clause, right? So we do have a subject verb, Birdie, and strolled, right? And then it's going to, but it's subordinate because we have the subordinating conjunction, has, and that creates this that makes this a subordinate clause. It's dependent, and it needs to have an independent clause in the same sentence. Otherwise, it's going to be a fragment. So we're going to add our independent clause. And now there's another version of what we could do to make this sentence clear, not ambiguous, not confusing. Okay, so those are dangling modifiers. Well, this is a dangling modifier. So essentially, we want our modifiers to be next to the words that they modify. So strolling into the office needs to be next to the person who actually strolled into the office, not next to the alarm. And since Birdie was not even in the sentence, it was dangling because it didn't have, this modifier did not have anything to grasp onto. And these modifiers did have the words that they were supposed to modify were in the sentence. It's just the problem was that they were not near and not close enough to the words that they modified. The bull, right? Okay. So that's it. Modifier problems.